Hi folks, good evening and God bless you. I want to try to explain something that's been on my mind, but I really haven't had the vocabulary or, I still don't, or the know-how to really explain it well. But ever since a couple of years ago, began dealing with rejection of nanotechnology, and I was led to a quantum healer on quantumcommand.net. She explained some things to me about what Skynet, the purpose of Skynet, is to get everybody connected to the Internet of all things. And I want to make the connection here between what's going on with that stuff put into our bodies, and with the sudden increase of earthquakes that we now see. So I want to read to you from this book, Highland, and just listen to the back description. This book was written in 1986, and this is the description of it. 2020 AD, America is divided into two societies, the insiders and the freemen. One is founded on the worship of death, the other on a new obedience to God. Can they continue to live side by side in the same country? Well, listen to, I'm going to begin to read on chapter 1, on page 119. And this is when one of the freedmen is meeting one of their fellow freedmen, and is a physicist. So check this out. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and read. Stanford finally explained the purpose of their visit. Dr. Gottlieb, Mr. Highland here is a major in Free State Intelligence and a member of the civil congregation. We have brought him here to talk to you and to see the latest developments, if you can spare us the time. Gottlieb nodded. Yeah, time is all we have. That is my pleasure. Highland took his chance to turn the conversation to his elementary level. Dr. Gottlieb, I've heard about the scalar weapons and the anti-grav ships. What I want to know is what makes it work. I'm a little bit familiar with what Tesla did in the way of wireless transmission of energy. Is it something like that? Gottlieb dove in. In a certain sense, you see, the Earth is just a huge magnet. The lines of force are the coils of the magnet, more of them in one direction than the other. Likewise, there is a huge magnetic field around the sun, extending from the sun and enveloping this planet and its moon. It is at the intersections of the lines that this magnetic grid that matter is formed, as vortexes, atomic structures, if you will, creating within itself a gravitational field. It is the imbalance of the intensity of the field that creates gravity. But on a deeper level, you see, we have to imagine that the whole fabric of time-space is actually filled with energy, like an enormous pressure tank. Now, if I want to blow pressure out towards that door over there, I can punch a small hole in the tank and do it that way. But that's wasteful. Most of the energy will be dissipated, lost in traveling from the tank to the door. What Tesla did was something like welding a pipe to the side of the tank and running the pipe across the room to the door. There's no loss in the transmission. Highland was confused already. But where does the energy come from? From the space-time fabric? Gottlieb nodded. Well, yes, you could say that. It comes from the vacuum, which, once you empty it of all the matter, so you can imagine it, it is filled with energy. You see, what Tesla did was to transmit potential, not energy. He stressed time-space at a certain point to release energy there. Highland was determined to understand. Did he do this with a receiver at one end and a transmitter at the other? A receiver is not necessary, only a grid of interference, an intersection of two transmitters. The transmitter sends potential, so to speak, and that potential is expressed as a release of electromagnetic energy at the point of intersection. Could this work in both directions? Highland asked. Of course, every transmitter can be a receiver too, Gottlieb responded. According to the way you bias the potential, bias the transmitter. The voltage will flow to the lower level as the transmitter or receiver. Hyland fought to understand. Where is the energy coming from? The energy is coming from the vacuum, the fabric of time-space. Enormous stress is locked up in the vacuum. It contains gravity and electromagnetic charge, all under stress. Like tiny bubbles popping constantly, little virtual particles, balls of pure charge, if you will, are popping in and out of existence. Their charges just cancel each other out. It's as if you had two men, equally strong, pushing against one another. They don't go anywhere, but there is tremendous force in that system. They are canceling each other out. Their vectors are force summed to zero, or it's like a bird on a power line. There's charge under one foot and charge under the other, but the two cancel out so that the bird is not fried by electricity. Now, if we stir up the vacuum, make it wave or bend, then we can get energy out. We stress the fabric of time-space at the point we wish, and we release or remove energy from that spot. Any kind of energy, not just electromagnetic energy, kinetic energy, heat, and so forth. We pulse a field with a scalar electronic magnetic wave, locking up all the force fields. You create an electrogravitational field. We can make beams of potential, but we lock the energy up before we let it cross. For example, we might cause an earthquake by releasing heat energy or removing heat energy along a fault line. The piezoelectric effect we generate in the rocks makes them little diodes or crystals. They turn the heat into kinetic mechanical stress, and we have an earthquake. Hyland wanted practical answers. But how do we make, say, a cannon out of this? Does a scalar cannon require actually two devices on the ground, focusing together on one distant point? Well, you could cross the two, but that is not necessary, Gottlieb answered patiently. It can be done with one station, but that is not something for you to know how to do. That is what you pay me for. That is what I make here. That is my secret. Look, here's what you can do with these scalar interferometers. Stop thinking in terms of Stone Age weapons that throw slugs or bushel baskets of explosives. You want to attack a city? Here's what you do. You build two scalar interferometers the size of large radar dishes. You cross their beams over a city and fire a burst of energy up into the air above the city. A fireball explodes it with a blast wave. The heat kills personnel, and the blast wave knocks down buildings. It has all the destructive force of an atomic blast without any of the radiation. As soon as it cools off, it's yours, or what's left of it. Or think about this. Instead of a heat explosion, you set off a cold explosion over the city. A cold explosion? Yeah, a cold explosion. What you do is withdraw heat from the target area. Remember I said that each transmitter is also a receiver, according to how you bias the energy? Well, you just take out all the heat. There's absolutely no protection from it. People in the target area might be sitting on stoves with fur coats on, and they would still be immediately frozen solid. The heat energy is taken directly out of their bodies, out of the space-time in which they exist. This way, of course, there is no damage to the physical buildings. This is strictly an anti-personnel weapon. It will freeze everyone in the target area. Well, I can see how you might use that for a giant weapon if you wanted to destroy a city, Hyland mused. But what about an anti-personnel weapon where you didn't want to destroy a whole city, where you just were facing one soldier or a group of them? Oh, with a small transmitter about the size and shape of a large rifle, and several hundred watts no less, say 150 watts, beamed into the human nervous system, you produce a devastating effect. It would cause a violent seizure in the nervous system. Or if you wanted to pour in enough energy, you could instantly kill every cell in your enemy's body. For power, you can mount enough batteries on a belt holder. Could you totally destroy someone with it? Hyland asked. Oh no, that would depend on how strong a blast of energy you released into their body. You could kill with it, or only stun. Is the anti-grav flyer based on this principle? Gottlieb began to lecture. Oh yes, and much more. Do you know Newton's third law? Hyland nodded. Consider Newton's third law. For every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. Let's say I have a ball pushing on one another, electromagnetically. At the micro level, I put in force, but the reacting system is putting in force as well. Now, if neither ball moves, their total energy vectors sum to 0. But within that system is 2 times the energy I'm putting in. The energy I'm putting in is myself, plus the inertia energy that's pushing back against it. If I can bleed that energy off, then I have anti-gravity. That is, if I can bleed it off at right angles to those forces, then a reaction force exists. If I bleed that stress at right angles to the floor of the device, I'm getting 2 times as much energy as I'm putting in, pushing against gravity. So you can make an inertial or space or anti-grav device in that way. Yes, but how mechanically would you power it? Hyland asked. Gottlieb waved a giant hand. Oh, you could power it with 2 capacitors bucking each other, or 2 magnetic poles bucking each other, like pole to like pole, or with 2 coils working against one another. What you have done is recreated the Bifield-Brown effect. Hyland was lost again. How do you do this? Well, you have to shield the whole thing except one controllable direction. In the direction opposite to the opening of the shield, you get reactionary force, motion. Hyland was following now. You mean, for example, if I had, say, a big metal box, and I put 2 magnets in it, and I oppose those 2 magnets, north pole to south pole, and if I bleed off the energy against that floor, the box would rise? Gottlieb nodded vigorously. Precisely, but you don't have to use magnets or electromagnets. By using scalar techniques, you can manipulate the gravity itself directly. If we invoke Newton's third law in a system, then the 2 forces taken together make a gravitational potential or stress. I can bleed that off in any direction, and Newton's third law then produces force in the opposite direction. When 2 forces fight each other to 0, I can bleed off energy in any direction I wish, twice as much as I put in. Hyland reflected on the implications of what he was hearing from Gottlieb. A connection was trying to form in his mind. Didn't Einstein theorize that matter was only, so to speak, condensed energy? And what about the New Zealander in the 70s and 80s? What was his name? Gottlieb supplied the name instantly. Bruce Cathy. That's it, Cathy. Didn't Cathy say, in effect, that physical matter was formed by the slowing down of light? That all matter was, in a matter of speaking, slow light? Gottlieb smiled. Well, that's something like what they were saying. That's certainly the implication of Einstein and Cathy's work. Hyland continued. Well, then if matter is only concentrated force or energy, and if Tesla discovered how to transmit energy from place to place, then in theory at least, it should be possible to transmit matter as well? Gottlieb smiled again. That comes next, after I've completed my work with the anti-grav device. In fact, the theory leads us to conclude that it is possible, given the exact knowledge of the scalar and energy patterns of a body, you could reproduce that entire body. Hyland frowned. You mean you could, for example, clone me exactly? Gottlieb shook his head. The physical body only. The physical body is just sort of a tuner, like the dial on a radio. The body is just a vehicle for the spirit, the soul of a man, which is not confined to the body. No, I am a scientist only, not God. Stanford interrupted the conversation. Dr. Gottlieb, would you like to see some of your prototypes if that's possible? And then they go into talking about the prototypes and how they would work and how they work. But this answers my question about what's going on with all the earthquakes and the receivers that's being put into people. And I wish I'll hopefully be able to explain it better once this kind of marinates and sits in with me. But this gentleman hit it on the head. What's scalar weaponry? Look it up and see what it is. It's all around us. So there it is, folks. Love you guys. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.